Football is our religion. The One Call Stadium is our church. Nigel Clough, the God we choose to believe in. And by name, I am your priest. Ladies and gentlemen, take your seats. This is the Sunday Sermon. Swindon Town were 1-0 winners over Mansfield Town in Sky Bet League 2 yesterday. The Stags' second successive defeat. But the Stags can count themselves a little unlucky. Tyree Sinclair's free kick. Did it or did it not go over the line? It's a cause for big debate. Also cause for debate is the fact that Mansfield Town desperately need another defender. Nigel Clough says that the Stags are trying to add two before the window slams shut on Tuesday. Can the Stags get the deals over the line, or will it be a close affair to watch between now and at least the January transfer window? Mansfield Town really do need those new additions. This is the Sunday Sermon, the place for you to have your say on your team, reflect on yesterday's results, and much, much more in between. So come along and get involved right now in the comments. Let us know your thoughts. Do Mansfield Town need one? Do they need two? Do they need three? Do they need 4,000 defenders? Do they need another striker? Are we short? Have we got enough? Was the ball over the line? And can the Stags turn things around? A little bit over dramatic, but after two successive defeats, you know what I mean. As they take on Harrogate, not once, but twice over the next 7 days. This is the Sunday Sermon. Get involved and have your say on your team right now on the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield matters. It was an afternoon of split-second decisions which made the difference as the Stags were beaten by 1-0 at Swindon yesterday. But those split-second decisions, how they make a big, big difference indeed. This afternoon, we'll be talking all about those split-second decisions and much, much more in between. And as always, we want you guys to get involved in the live chat. So come and have your say on your team. Let us know your thoughts on yesterday's 1-0 slender defeat at Swindon. Joining me, as always, to chew the fat over yesterday's game and much more in between, we've got Clough Parkin and Nathan Edge. Good afternoon to you both. How are you? Well, are you recovered from yesterday yet?
Evening, gentlemen. I've decided I'm not going to Swindon. I said this last time. I'm never going again. Ever.
Good evening, chaps. It was a bit disappointing, but there were some good things there as well.
There were. I'm surprised you didn't answer that with Stephen Quinn, though, Clive, because you were telling me and Nathan before we started tonight that there's one player in the squad in particular that you're having trouble, whose name you're having trouble remembering. It's Stephen Quinn. You've got a little sticky note, have you not, to remind you of his name? Let's have a little look at the sticky note if we can.
I'm not showing you the sticky note because it's embarrassing, but I've written it on my pad as well.
He's written it on his pad. There you go, Stephen
I'm sure
Quinn.
his problem's been with Elliot Hewitt so far. So to throw another name in the mix, yeah.
Your memory is worse than I am. It was Jamie Hewitt.
Hewitt, there you go. Yeah, Nathan was just doing the proper thing and doing proper names. As always,
listen, you two, you'll be old one day.
One day.
There's a while.
Yeah, definitely. As always, we want you guys to get involved in the live feed. Come and have your say on your team. Let us know your thoughts on yesterday's results. nobody, for the first time this season in the podcast predictions game this week, scored a single point. So that's an interesting one. We'll talk lots more this afternoon. We'll have a little preview to the Cup game on Tuesday as well. Round up this month too a little bit. But today we want to focus on a few things, and that mainly is split-second decisions. The goal being offside, the goal not being given, their goal not closing things down, the link-up play between the strikers, Ollie Hawkins, Danny Johnson, George Lapsley not sort of being in sync. Also as well, the reactive substitutions, that sort of thing. Tyree Sinclair's long throw. There's a lot to talk about today, so make sure you get involved. Clive, I'm going to start with you. Yesterday, a disappointing result to take, 1-0 defeat. Obviously, but the Stags again perhaps should have come home with a little bit more than absolutely nothing.
When you talk about losing 1-0, the obvious thing is to score goals, isn't it? And that's where we let ourselves down yesterday. It wasn't conceding a goal. We're going to concede goals, and we know we've got weaknesses at the back that need to be sorted out in the fullness of time. But every good team is going to deserve a goal against us. They weren't a bad side, actually. Where we let ourselves down, we didn't get to at the other end, and that's as simple as it was.
Yeah, that's a big problem which we're facing, which we faced yesterday. But it's also a concern, Nathan Edge, that in order for us to go and progress, and for us to get to try and win games, that we've got to go out and try and score 2 or 3 goals, because we know we're cannon fodder for a mistake at the other end.
Yeah, that's a disappointing thing. I mean, Clive said they weren't a bad side. I don't think they was a great side either. So a bit frustrating that we at least didn't come away with a point. But the bottom line is, if you can't keep the ball out your own net, it's going to be harder to win games. Remember when Clough came in last season, there was a big deal at that point about keeping the ball out of your own net and then building from there. Well, we kind of need to get back to that a little bit. Let's try and make sure we keep that ball out of our net. And we did that a little bit better. I know we didn't keep clean sheets against the likes of Newport and Bristol Rovers. I mean, Bristol Rovers was a wonder strike, so fair play to that. But those games we defended better, but probably wasn't as nice on the eye going forward. But then you flip side, we probably played much prettier football and played better going forward against the likes of Bradford, Colchester, and Swindon, and we've come away with 1 point of those games. So we've got to find the balance, but I think that's got to also come with finding the right personnel to fit that to fix that problem. Finding the right personnel is a critical thing, and one thing we are looking for, Clive, is at least one defender. Nigel Clough, though, hinted that there may be 2.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of wishful thinking there. He also said there are not many out there, so to get 2 would be marvellous. Get 1 would be enough. Get none would be a real disappointment.
Yeah, a real disappointment indeed. Go on, Nate.
More than disappointment, it'll be a problem. Because you look at it as it is at the minute. I mean, hopefully Perch isn't going to be out for long. Obviously, it looks like he might have a bit of concussion or something along those lines from training. So they've done the right thing and followed the right protocol with a head injury. So but even without the missing Perch, you say we need a defender. But then you lose one, and that's only one. And I think there's going to be points in the season where we're going to be losing more than one at one time, whether it's through suspensions and injuries. So it's been a concern for a few weeks. Take Perch out of the situation, it's even more of a concern. So no, I can see why he's looking for 2, and I think one of them might have to be a right-sided player as well.
Yeah, and I think, this is an interesting point as well, because I was going to save this little mini rant for later on, but we might as well talk about it now. And it's Corey O'Keefe. And I think, we know how much of a good player he is. He showed his promise early doors last season, but for whatever reason, since Nigel Clough came in, hasn't really fancied him, whether it's because, he was preferred more as a wing back rather than an out-and-out right back or whatever. I don't know what it is, but you look at his performances for Rochdale. He was in the team of the week last weekend. He was in. I saw some sort of stats on Twitter, some sort of like the top 10, top 5 for interceptions made and tackles put in down that right-hand side. It's clear we've got an issue down that right-hand side, Clive, because of the manner in which we've conceded goals. Again, would O'Keefe have solved the problem, or is it another reason which we perhaps don't understand? Do we need a bit more clarity on that situation? Because I can't at the minute get my head around why he's not in our setup, why he's being loaned to another League Two club.
I think it all comes down to whether the management team fancy the player or not, and clearly they didn't value him enough to hang on to him. They have to keep changing players around and trimming squads. We know that, and it's always a selectivity question. And if they prefer someone else to a player, they're going to let the other player go. But we are thin on the ground in certain key areas. I mean, I don't like to lay too much blame to Hewitt for the goal on Saturday, because actually I put more at the feet of Clough. He's there to cover the guy, and I don't think he did his job as well as he could, and on other occasions has done. So, but and we're singing this song every week. We definitely need more strength in the middle of the back. And we are, when they're all there and they're all playing well, we're okay. But of course, it won't be like that every game. We're going to have injuries. We're going to have suspensions. We're going to have players lose form. We're going to have players who do something bloody daft on the day. And we've had all of those this season in 4 games. Oh, sorry, we haven't had a suspension yet.
Not quite. I think one interesting thing for me is, you speak about Ollie Clark there, and he's not been highlighted as much as perhaps he should have been, because I completely agree. I think he needs to sort of take a little bit of ownership on that situation as well. I think yesterday in particular, the goal which we conceded all sort of came from him. If he's playing in that midfield on the diamond of the right-hand side, he has to press more. He has to have a little bit more presence in that midfield. He's the captain, Nate. He's got to lead.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why, and this was probably one of our main concerns when the season started, is the left side with McLaughlin. But the reason why that's working so well is because Quinn and McLaughlin are working together superbly well. And unfortunately, we're not getting that on the right-hand side, whether it's Hewitt out there, Gordon out there. So you have got to ask the question: Is it more down to not necessarily more down to the midfield, but is that a contributing factor to why it's not working? So I think that does need probably scrutinised a little bit more. I don't think Hewitt did cover himself in glory at all against Bradford, but like Clive said, I don't think it solely lies at him. I think there's more to it than just him. So whether that's Ollie Clark having to take more responsibility and make sure he's doing more of that defensive work and working in tandem with the right back, or whether someone else needs to maybe go out to that side, whether Harry Charlesley can go there and see if that works. It did work a little bit last season with him there. So I think that maybe does need scrutinising a bit more.
I think one thing for me, which was highlighted, I watched this back this morning, I had a little look at the goal. We've got to be more clever. We've got to be more streetwise, and this is where getting that new central defender or that new defender, whether it's a right back or a centre half, can really help. Because fair enough, Ollie Clark doesn't go and press the ball. He doesn't try and prevent them from getting out their own half and playing out of their own half. That's by the by. But then we've got another couple of opportunities to try and stop it. First of all, George Maris, who does well in the tackle to try and win the ball back. He's having a bit of a tussle, and it's 50-50. The ball's not really going anywhere, and he's dealing with the situation well enough. But then this is the issue, and I don't think I fear that there might be a little bit of backlash from Clive here, because I'm going to say the name Farron Rawson, and this is not a dig at him. This is just purely based on the footage I watched back yesterday and I've analysed since. He has the opportunity. He's there, and as he's on the halfway line, he steps up to join Maris in the tackle. So all of a sudden, you've got 2 Stags players who've sandwiched to try and win this ball. But as Rawson steps up, the Swindon player, who's got goal side of Maris, is able to then knock the ball into a bit of space and skip beyond 2 challengers. But whilst Rawson's also stepped up, he's got a man next to him who's then been able to peel off and create a bit of space. One quick pass, that player is in a lot of space. He then gets the critical crossing from which they score the goal. For me, Rawson doesn't need to step up there. He can just stay with his man and let George Maris deal with his man. He doesn't need to step up and cause us a problem, because Kel Gordon's already gone wandering. We'll leave him out of this for now. So he's just created a much, much bigger gap to be exploited. And we've got to be a little bit more streetwise in that position for me to try and, be a little bit more effective and do to not be conceding so many sloppy goals. I'm sure that you might have a comment back at me for highlighting Rawson again. It does seem like I try and highlight Rawson every week, but that's not the case. I'm just going on the footage which I watched yesterday.
Craig, I'm not married to Rawson. I don't worship the lad. I just think he's had some stick he didn't deserve over the games he's played for us. I'd be one of the first to criticise his performance this season, because he isn't as good as I'd like to think he is. I think he's very, very competent with the obvious stuff, with the balls being sent forward to him, and he's got presence, he's got height. He gets his head on to more balls than anyone else in that situation in the team. But I don't think he's got that vision. I don't think he's got that alertness that is required sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
That's why you need a really strong bloke next to him. And ideally, in my world, that strong bloke would also be the captain. But that's a different subject, I think, because you need to boss your team from behind. And I think that Ollie Clark, I'm not qualified to say how good a captain he is, but he doesn't seem to have a huge presence. And I think, if we go back to the days of our last big central defensive captain, he had a presence on the field. He also had a presence in the changing room, and it cost him his job. But we need someone like that, and I think that's hopefully what's in Clough and Co.'s mind as well. I also think we need to be careful not to be uber critical of the defence, because the defence is the last resort. Somewhere in the middle is all the work that should take place to stop a lot of these things happening. We've mentioned Ollie Clark, and obviously we know we've got a couple of injuries there. And Maris worked his socks off again yesterday. My criticism of yesterday's midfielders was the forward midfielder of Lapsley. He's not hit form yet this season compared to what he did last year. And yesterday he chose, I'm sure not deliberately, the day to have his worst performance. He looked a yard off the ball. He looked to run out of steam in the second half. In fact, I think he needs to change his brand of cigarettes. And I think putting that person in between this so-called diamond and our strike force was half the problem. On his day, he scores goals and makes goals. He did neither of those, and he hasn't done anything like that really this season, has he?
No, he hasn't, and I completely agree with that. And I think that's where this comment from Richard comes in. He says, "I think we need to go back to a 4-3-3 formations. It works better for the players we have." And I completely agree with that statement, because, like you've just said, Clive, about George Lapsley, I agree. He had a very poor game yesterday. Arguably for me, easily actually for me, his worst in a Mansfield shirt. Every player has an off day, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't coming off, and that was his chance, because he's not started much this season, because Rhys Oates has been preferred to him, but he got given his opportunity yesterday and just didn't take it. And everybody in the away end could see that he was knackered. He was running out of steam very, very quickly. And Harry Charlesley there is running down the touchline doing his warm-up, and everybody is sort of screaming for Clough to get Lapsley off and to bring Harry Charlesley on and give us a bit of pace and bit of energy in the midfield. And I just think that for whatever reason, with this new strike force, George Lapsley isn't working at the top of the diamond. And I think also because of the diamond, we're not getting as much out of Ollie Clark and perhaps Stephen Quinn as we would. Quinn, he's fine because he links up well with Steve McLaughlin down that left-hand side and does a very steady job. But Clark is being forced to the right-hand side of that diamond and leaving too many holes and too many exposures. Hence why we've had, the goals conceded against us as we had. But you look at the way we started yesterday. We started in a 4-3-3, bossed the game for a good 15-20 minutes, dropped back into the diamond, wasn't in the game, and then we finished the game with a 4-3-3 and look a lot stronger for it. I completely agree with what Richard says, Nathan, in that we need to go back to it, because like we've said for weeks, you look at the firepower we've got and the talent we've got outside of the starting 11, a 4-3-3 would complement that very well and really, really give opposition defenders something to think about and some work to do.
Yeah, I mean, we did start saying this, didn't we? Was it last week or maybe even the week before? We started sort of hinting at the 4-3-3 maybe needs to come back into play a little bit and start using it like we did a little bit last season. And then the more sort of we keep highlighting these issues that we're getting in midfield and so on, that call for the 4-3-3 is getting stronger, isn't it? So, and especially when you're missing key players in those key positions to make that diamond work, it then again strengthens that argument. So, I agree. I think Lapsley did have his worst game, unfortunately. I think Clough maybe stuck with him in the hope that his just ability to maybe, if it dropped to him in the box, he'd put it away, because obviously the strikers weren't doing that. So maybe had that hope, but I just think he's unfit at the minute, and that's why if you're so unfit and so off the pace, unfortunately, your ability is going to drop as well. So I think he's just got some work to do. He's got some catching up to do to get back to his full fitness and maybe get back to the George Lapsley that we know he can be. We're going to maybe have to see a bit more of Reece Oates, and maybe let's get Charlesley back involved. Let's see. Clough did say he's been unlucky to be missing out in the matchday squad. Well, at the moment, same with I'm going to say Jordan Bowery as well. At the moment, some of those players aren't quite doing it. They've been given the opportunity, and yes, we're only 4 games in, so it's not a crisis at the minute. But if I was one of those other players, who haven't quite made the bench, who aren't quite getting the minutes, I'd be saying, well, hold on a minute. They're not quite doing it. They're not in the form. Give me a chance. Let me go on there and let me try and prove to you that I should be on that starting lineup. So I say that goes for Sinclair, Bowery, Charlesley, and James Clark, even him. So, this is kind of why I'm looking forward to Tuesday night a little bit, actually. And I think it's a good time for that fixture to come along.
Yeah, can't wait for it. I'll look forward to my usual seasonally rant about that at the end of the show. Roy says, after watching the highlights yesterday, we did have the better chances, and our keeper has been lucky not to get a clean sheet. On paper, it looked like a hard start, so I'm not that worried. I'm more worried about the temptation of the Forest job if Houghton gets the sack. From there, obviously drew 1-1 with Derby the other day. There's nothing to be worried about in terms of Clough doing a Steve Evans on his Clive at all. I think the other point, though, to that comment about it being a tough start, you look at that start on paper, and it really was a tough start. Every team we played so far, you would expect to be there or thereabouts at the end of the campaign. So, like we've been saying, I think, we've got a 50% record, 2 wins, 2 defeats. That's not bad at all, especially considering what happened this time last season.
Yeah, I can spend as much time as you like comparing to last season. It doesn't actually take us anywhere. But the comment was right. We on paper, we had a very stiff August, and to come out of it with any credit is quite important. And it's been a should-have month. We should have taken a point off of Bradford. We should have taken 3 points at Colchester. We should have taken something yesterday. And it's just nudging those should-haves off of the agenda, really. And it's only one good shot or one decent interception that makes the difference. And I can understand Clough's frustration. Where I don't actually support Clough's view is that I seem to think that Mr. Clough would like us to win every game 1-0. And whilst I'll accept that if he can make it happen, the better way for me will be to get 2 or 3 at the other end and take all the pressure off the back end. Can I just quickly go back onto the diamond? I'm not a big fan of the diamond anyway, but the diamond at Mansfield will only work well if Lapsley's on fire, and he drags it forward, and then the quality players we've got behind him will do their bit. Take Lapsley out of the equation, we should abandon the diamond, in my opinion, stick to 4-3-3. I also am not sure that Lapsley works well with Oates in that format. So that's a bit unfair on both of them in that respect, but more so on Oates. And certainly I don't think the format we used yesterday when we were away from the 4-3-3 did Danny any favours. I mean, he's getting a lot of stick from some of the Facebook warriors at the moment, unfairly, in my opinion, this early in the game. But he didn't get the sort of service that I'm sure he was used to getting at Leyton Orient.
Yeah, who played in a very different style altogether. And there is a comment about Danny Johnson. Glyn says, does Danny Johnson's start concern any of you? Seems to have no confidence. It doesn't concern me whatsoever. I think we've got a really good front man on our hands there. I think, he's got goals in him. But also you've got to remember that he's playing with a brand new team who are finding their feet in a brand new system. He's in a brand new area, still settling into that, and all of those permutations to take in. Just because he hasn't scored 10 goals in the opening 4 games of the league campaign doesn't make him a bad striker. You look at Matt Green when he was first at the Stags, when he first arrived on loan from Oxford. It took him a good 5 or 6 games to get a goal, and then they started coming. Strikers feed on confidence. They feed on good passes into the box, good service to them, and we are very capable of that. And we were doing that a few times yesterday, but for whatever reason, we just couldn't find our groove. And I think it goes back to the 4-4-2 diamond versus the 4-3-3. And I think if you were to get Johnson in a 4-3-3 with the right players upside, alongside him, perhaps Jordan Bower on the left-hand side of that. We saw how effective he was there last season. George Lapsley firing all cylinders is an excellent player for this division, too good for this division. One game doesn't make him a bad player. Reece Oates, there's more to come from him. Hawkins as well. I think he'll find his feet and get the goals. But also yesterday, it's that thing of getting that mentality right, because there was a golden opportunity, Nath, for Johnson and for Hawkins. Hawkins did really, really well to shrug off his man, get through. He was 1v1, but the goalkeeper's on rush and it's difficult to get a shot away. He does the right thing for me in passing the ball across, overhits it, and then Johnson has to cut back inside. But rather than taking a shot there, Johnson perhaps needed to not have that goal-hungry head for a second and just lay it back across to Lapsley. But going back to the point, I think, there's no concern for me about Johnson whatsoever, because once he finds his feet, I think we will see a really good striker who will give us a good return of somewhere between, anywhere 12 to 18 goals for this season, which I think is a good return.
Yeah, I mean, just talk about that individual sort of scenario, situation there with that chance. You spoke about the head of the show, sort of the split decisions. I think, like you say, that the decision from Hawkins was correct. Unfortunately, the execution wasn't quite there, and that'll be why he's League Two. That's why he's League Two and not still at Ipswich or in the Championship. So, that's going to happen at our level. Unfortunately, we've got to accept that. We'll have to move on from that. But going back to sort of to Danny Johnson. I mean, I've so far not been his massive fan, but it's 4 games in, and. I think the difficulty with Johnson is you look back to last year with Jamie Reid, and he took him along. Well, he never really got going, but he got the benefit of doubt a little bit because he was making a step up. Whereas Johnson isn't getting the benefit of doubt because he's already been at this level. Whereas I think we actually do need to give him a bit of a benefit of doubt for those reasons that you just said. The fact that he has come into a new team and playing a new system and so on. But the difference is, for me, I think him from Jamie Reid, and I make a comparison to a lot of other people have been as well, is that I think he does have confidence in his own ability. And although he might not seem the most confident at the moment, I think he's still got that raw confidence there. And I think that will come the more, the more the team performs a little bit better, and the more, he starts getting better chances in front of goal. So it will come, but I think it's just going to take a bit of time. But then the question is, what can we do in the meantime to try and either get more out of him or to get more out of us going forward? Is that a change of shape? Is it a change of personnel? Is it maybe giving him a rest and bringing him on as a sub? That I think that those questions do need to be considered, and rather than just sticking him out there, from the start, giving another 90 minutes and just hoping something will happen. I think we need to do a little bit more to try and make that happen.
Sue says, Glyn, I'm in agreement. Why aren't we taking the chances? Is it confidence? And also Richard says, Johnson's movement is as good as we've had since Greenacre. He just needs a goal and it will come. I think it's the same with all of us at the minute, isn't it, Clive? It's the fact that, we've got to take into perspective that we're only 4 games in. And once those floodgates open, they will open it. Strikers, like everyone, thrive on confidence.
I think the whole team thrives on confidence. Success breeds success, or so it's said. The thing is that all of the players want to do well. There's no question in my mind. Every one of them wants to be a success at Mansfield. Every one of them wants to see the team do well. And as soon as we start to slip a little bit, the pressure gets intense. And especially, our fans are tolerant to a point, but get very aggressive after a while. Too soon, in my book. But I mean, an example of how the players desperate to do well was when Tyrese Sinclair came on. He brought energy, which was missing, and we know he's a talent. We know he's good with free kicks. I don't think he's quite as good as he thinks he is, but what he was able to do was to come and offer a slightly different dimension. But he was so desperate to make an impact when he came on that I think some of his game suffered from it. I'd much rather see Tyrese come on at the start of the game, I think, and give him a real chance. Last season, he was playing full games and he contributed well, both in terms of contribution to other players and goals scored.
It's rant o'clock for me because you mentioned Tyrese Sinclair, therefore you have lit the touch paper. I completely agree that because he's a confidence player and he's an eager young lad. He's really eager to try and impress. So I think sometimes, like you say, I think sometimes he does think he's better than he is with the free kicks. But when one of them, does come off, it will send shockwaves through. One thing he has got is a long throw, and I was having a meltdown about this after the game yesterday because can somebody please explain to me the logic of bringing a player on who's got a long throw on 72 minutes and then not using it until the 94th? What is the point of that? We had at the 94th minute, we had 3 players on the pitch. No, 4 players on the pitch that are maybe over 6 foot. You've got Hewitt, you've got Rawson, you've got Hawkins who'd stayed on, and you brought Bowery on as well.
Can you just take Rawson out of that because he's no threat in the attacking box? He might be right in the defence, but he's no threat in the attacking box.
For once, I'm going to defend Farron Rawson because he's tall, and the tallness depends on my argument here, right? If you've got, let's take Barry out of the equation because he came on a little bit later. At least 3 players over 6 foot who can. That's the key word. Can be dominant in the air. Every time you get a throw in line with their box or there or thereabouts, and you've got somebody in your team capable of launching it in there and getting it to at least the penalty spot, use them every single time, because I tell you what, they will not want to concede a throw, which means you'll have more opportunity to get across in the box and be more productive. But B, when they are facing a throw, every single time they see centre halves coming forward, they know they're in for a battle, and it only takes one to drop to cause a chance and to cause an opportunity. We saw it when we had Exeter Skowhegan. We saw it with Cheltenham last season, who had Ben Tozza literally throwing them into League One and now throwing money at them courtesy of the movie stars, now at Wrexham, of course, and they'll use that to get out of the conference. If we've got it in our locker and Sinclair is capable of it, every time he's on the pitch and we get a throw in that position, get a long throw, even defensively, because when we were under the cosh, and you can't argue with this, I don't think, when we were under the cosh late on and we were trying to get that goal back, Clive, when we had a defensive throw in our own half, he would launch it over the halfway line and we nearly created chances for it. If he's got a long throw and he's on the pitch, every time it goes out of play in those key areas, give him the bloody ball.
Here endeth the rant. We don't disagree. I mean, if a player's got a certain talent, it should be used. It should be exploited, whether that be taking free kicks or corners, or whether it be throw-ins or whatever. And the lad has got a surprisingly long throw for someone without the physical stature of someone like Ben Tozer, who, by the way, I think has been recruited by the film stars because they think he's a quarterback. But we don't always make the best use of our players, and I think if you're going to be critical of Clough, I think if he knows he can throw the ball in, why not use him when we can? I'm also not going to knock Rawson. He is a presence, even if he's a clumsy presence when he goes into the box.
Hey, it only takes a little knock. It only takes a little graze off his bald head, doesn't it, to go in? We'd all be loving him then.
There's 1 or 2 players have to worry about him when he's there, and that just perhaps creates something for someone else.
I'll give you that. I mean, the reason why I said it is we was having a laugh about it with the people I sat around with. Ian was calling him the threat as a tongue-in-cheek, but did say superb in the air defensively, but going forward, he's literally there as a presence, but he never seems to get anything close to getting a goal, apart from when he played us, and I think they had only 2 goals in his career. So just jump and get a flick on, and he'll do the rest. He does give something for them to think about because there's someone else coming forward. So I'll give you that little bit of a point.
But the point is, if he's in there in the season 10 times, once it'll come off his arse and go in the goal.
Yeah, I'm maybe rise that to 30 times and maybe once.
All right, then. Maths isn't my strong suit here.
Whether you're saying 20 or 30, that only depends on whether Tyrese Sinclair is launching a long throw in. And that is my point. If we've got it, use it. You know what they say: if you've got it, flaunt it. So that's the point that I'm getting at a little bit. Keep your comments coming in. Sue says, going back to defenders and being dominant at the back. Pierce managed his players; he'd let them know. Clark, I'm not so sure. Am I missing it? Mark says that he agrees with that. And Philip asks how many Stags fans were at Swindon. No official figure was given yesterday. But if you had to hazard a guess, Clive, what would you say yesterday? It seemed like a decent following from us again.
Well, from where he was sit, which is fairly low down in the stand, I stabbed at 300 with a fan on Facebook today, and he said, "Oh no, we were further back. There's a lot more than 300 there." Well, I'll bow to his superior view, but we haven't got any official figures at the moment. But
everyone around me was saying 250 to 300. So, but
yeah, he may be on the upper side of 3 rather than the lower side of 3. It was a good turnout considering the journey.
Yeah, very, very much so. More on that later on. First, though, let's delve into the Stags dressing room then and get post-match reaction. Here's Stags boss Nigel Clough speaking to I Follow Stags.
I'm not sure how we haven't scored, apart from poor finishing, poor decision making in the final third again. But to create that many chances away from home at one of the top teams in the league and not come away with anything, it's quite incredible, really. We controlled the game for periods, certainly in the first 20 minutes. Had 2 good chances. Ollie Clark had 2 good chances. Ollie Hawkins had one on the head from a corner just for half time. So you come in 0-0 and you think, well, we should be 1-0 up. And then second half, concede a softish goal. Good goal probably from their point of view. And after that we have, I think, half a dozen opportunities to get a goal. Probably the best one just before they scored, actually, when Ollie Hawkins went clear and tried to square it to Danny Johnson. And so poor sort of, or whether it's a poor decision or not, it's poor execution. And it should be a tap in, and then Danny Johnson should lay it back for the laps and doesn't. So it's a combination of poor decisions and poor finishing. We're going to look back. I'm not quite sure where we were down the right hand side, but they created very little today. Nathan Bishop's not had too much to do. As I say, it was at the other end where we've lost the game. Yeah, well, we're halfway line, so we can't tell, but we had a couple of subs warming up. They thought it was in, and I thought you saw the reaction of our players, thought it was in as well. But how it's not gone in, I don't know. Elliot Hewitt seems to be right there, and it's just going to hit him and go in. And you're just waiting for the referee to give the goal. It must have been mightily close, but another little thing's gone against us. I think we've come and played well, started the game brilliantly, controlled the game, created chances. We just need somebody to put one of them away. I think if we go 1-0 up today, at any time we win the game. When you lose James Perch, certainly, we've been stepping up our search in the last 2 weeks prior to Perch's injury. So we do hope to get a defender or 2 in before Tuesday. That's our hope. It's a different thing, isn't it? That's our hope, to try and get a couple in. David Sharp's been working very hard on them the last week, 10 days. Everybody has to try and secure them, but there's not many out there at the moment. So we're pursuing a couple in particular and try and get them over the line.
Nigel Clough speaking to I Follow Stags. You can watch that in full by heading to mansfieldtown.net/ifollow, where you can see lots more content on there as well. Nigel Clough speaking about hope and expectation and reality in terms of signing another defender. Won't spend too much time on it because we all know that it's something that we've got to do. But Nathan Edge, it's encouraging to know that we are putting the work in behind the scenes and trying to get one over the line.
Yeah, he actually, I don't know if you was there at that point, Craig, before the match. He went over and had a chat with quite a few supporters and was talking about it then. But he was saying it is very difficult at the moment. He said even teams in the championship such as Derby, they're playing sort of defenders who are 36, 37, and even they're struggling to bring in defenders. So it does seem to be quite a hard task at the moment. So I just need to hope that we are able to do it. We all know what happened in January, earlier this year, where we didn't quite get our targets and it was left a bit late. And obviously now it's getting close to the transfer deadline. Does ours close at the same time as Premier League? So is it 11 o'clock on the 31st, so on Tuesday?
I'm not sure at the time.
Premier League ends, but obviously it's close anyway. It's around the corner, so there's not long to get that business done. And I would say 1, I think is massively important. 2 would be great, but I think we've got to get that 1 and make it. It's got to make it a good one. It's got to be that number 5 that's available, isn't it? It's got to be a proper, like we've been saying for a few weeks. It's got to be a really reliable sort of statement signing. That's someone that's going to lead from that back line. Because I think that's what we're really missing.
I think the key thing as well is, to remember, even if we don't manage to get one before the deadline, we can still sign free agents, so it's not all lost. But if you're a free agent, you need to be really, if you've not been snapped up by now, there's something wrong. So we'd have to be really, really cautious with that. My question would be, I don't know your thoughts on this, Clive. Are we going to try and get a younger one in on loan to bolster the numbers? Are we going to try and get an experienced one in? We definitely know we need the latter, the experience, but have we got the money to go and spend? And I say this, I know that, this is not a dig at all. I think it's more of a thing of, you look at what Wrexham are doing. They've just paid, in excess of 200,000 for Ben Tozza, which seems a bit expensive at their level, but he's exactly the type of defender that I'd have wanted to go for. It's nothing to do with the long throw. He's the experienced sort of centre half that you'd want. So in order for us to go to get one, we need to go and spend a little bit of money. And I just hope that the resource is going to be there, because for me, that could be the difference between top 7 and mid-table obscurity, because we know without that type of defender, the weakness is there. Have we got the money, and are we willing to go and put the money on the table to buy that missing piece of the jigsaw? It's almost when you're like collecting something, you've got almost a collection, and you'll pay that extra little £2 here and there to ensure your collection is complete, so your OCD doesn't go through the roof.
He's referring to his Monopoly stickers there from McDonald's. That's what he's.
I am. You're right, and I started yesterday.
To answer your question, I think the £200,000 that appears to have been paid as a transfer fee wouldn't have been an issue for Mansfield. But I think behind that, you've got a huge bonanza signing on fee that nobody will know anything about. And he'll be on a minimum of 5k a week, which would destroy the wage structure at Field Mill. I mean, but having said that, we appear to have put 5k a week aside for our signing from Portsmouth that never happened. So I think the money is there. I just think Clough's right that the right candidate isn't there and available. Now, whether we've got whether we've got any real opportunities or whether it's just wishful thinking, I don't know. But going back to the earlier part of your conversation, do we go for somebody young and on the way up, or someone seasoned? Well, the answer is both. If we can get a well-proven senior player, have him, and if we can also get an up-and-coming youngster that will develop alongside, even better. But at this moment in time, I'll take either or.
Yeah, me too. Any thoughts, do you think, going around Mr. Clough's head at the moment, Nath, about letting a certain Mr. Sweeney go?
Probably not. You don't know. It's one of those, isn't it? It's sometimes you don't know what you've lost until it's gone potentially. But I don't know. I don't think he quite rated him. I think sometimes Clough, I think he knows what he wants, doesn't he? And I think it's the same with O'Keefe, the same argument there. Same with Roland Mayonnaise as well. And thank you.
Only just. It was very out of view. I nearly hurt myself doing that.
No, I think, I don't think it was certainly a characteristic thing with Sweeney, because I think he was there, the right characteristics in his personality. I think it was more maybe down to his, necessarily, maybe his ability, etc. But I think with O'Keefe and Many SA, I think that's personality, and I think that's going to be the issue of trying to bring in the right player now. It's got to be the right player at the right price, and they've got to fit into the team. Because I do agree with what Clive said earlier. I think at the moment it's not because it's a lack of effort or a lack of togetherness with a team that are letting us down. I don't think that's an issue at all. I think the players are giving it all for the shirt and for the badge and for the management team. And you don't want to disrupt that. So you've got to get that side of the recruitment right. And we've got to remember back to what Clough said when he came into the club. He said he spends money when he thinks it's value. He's not going to throw it around. So and I still think that's happened now. I do think we've got some money to spend. We do know we've got. We saved money on Tom Naylor with him going to be a highest earner. He was open about that. So we do have money, but I think he's not willing to gamble it unless he knows that they're going to be the right fit for us. So, but let's just hope that they've got somebody on the radar. It sounds like they are, and it sounds like it's just a matter of the club making a decision. But it's getting to that stage of season, isn't it? Where is it now? Is it not a decision on whether the price is right? Maybe they've already agreed that, but is that because they've got to get somebody else in first, and you're just waiting, and it could go down to the final wire, which is always exciting but a bit scary at the same time.
Philip says, what names are doing the rounds for the defenders? And that's the point. There aren't any. That's There's no. Usually you have a bit of a clue, don't you? You know, about who you targeting. You know, the Tom Naylor thing at the start of the transfer window was going around for ages. And it sort of did come to fruition, but no names are doing the round. So either they're keeping it extremely quiet, or what Clough says is very true indeed, that, you know, there is literally nobody out there. So maybe if you can play centre half and you can win a tackle and you're not mates with anybody and you can put tackles in, take your boots down to the RH Academy tomorrow and you might get a game on Tuesday.
It's funny how gossip works though, isn't it? I mean, last week, the Bristol Rovers player unceremoniously walked out of the club, and everything, well, could this be it? Could this be the player? And there's some logic in thinking that. Within 3 hours, he was signed for Ross County. So are these minor Scottish clubs better at recruitment than we are, or is there another reason for it?
The problem is with rumours is that you've even got Sky Sports or the Burton game still linking Aikens with us, and that's clearly not going to be happening. So rumours are rumours, aren't they? Sometimes it's hard to know what's true from literally just rumour, and speculation. But like you say, it is a bit concerning that there's not any names at all bandied about.
Shall we just put some random names out there? Let's just pick a few defenders, put some names out there, and you never know. We might send someone.
Might trigger it.
Yeah. Big
X coming back for round 4.
What about Ryan Toffazelli?
Appropriate name?
I still alive?
He definitely goes for that song. I agree.
He's in a precarious position at the minute. He's with League One Wycombe, hoping to get signed for a Championship club, but also seemingly injured, but also concentrating on trying to be a B-Tech Ben Foster by these YouTube videos, which I have to say are very, very good quality, actually. I say that tongue in cheek, the B-Tech thing. His YouTube videos are very good quality content and give you a real insight into what goes off behind the scenes. I only say the B-Tech thing because it came about 2 weeks after, so it's like, oh, somebody else is doing it, so I'm gonna give it a go. But yeah, very much with Wycombe, but you never know. It'd be great to see some vlogs in and around the RH Academy, but I highly doubt it.
What about, somebody suggested last week, and I thought it was valid, that big hulk of an ex-Lincoln player, all hair and 6'8".
Boswick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where's he now? Is he playing Parks football or what? Where is he?
I've got no idea. But this is how rumours start. I've heard that actually he was shopping in Sainsbury's yesterday, and Gary Crosby saw him in the deli section and had a quick word with him. But
problem is, Steve Evans was next to him, just getting his stuff ready for China. That's the only issue.
And talking to Steve Evans, did you see his number 2 got lamps yesterday?
Yes,
that was really funny.
Yes, it's very interesting.
and at the same time, Mr. Evans was making 4 or 5 steps backwards. He wasn't getting involved.
Yeah. I didn't think for a second he would, if there was no press conferences around and no one from China getting in his face, and then that was it. Let's turn our attentions elsewhere. We'll be asking you to suggest your man of the match later on in about 15 minutes or so. But first, it's time for possibly another Craig rant, because Nathan Edge, on Tuesday night, you mentioned it earlier on, the Stags play their first of 3 group games in this season's Papa John's Trophy, the Pizza Cup, as it's affectionately known this season. A trip to Harrogate awaits. Prime opportunity for players not getting minutes to show what they can do, but also, I'll say it again, it's a prime opportunity for Mansfield Town to kick on, get some good prize money, make some progression, and win some bloody silverware.
Well, we could go and win a match. Is it 10 grand when you win a game?
10 grand to win, yeah. 10
grand to win. So, win Tuesday night, that could be offered as a little signing on fee for a player. I'm sure that might, turn the heads a little bit. That key player.
Only if you go for a player from Shirebrook.
I mean, anybody, 10 grand, you're not going to say no to it. 10 grand on top of being offered.
You can buy a house for 10 grand in Shirebrook.
But, I'm with you, Craig. Even though I get the arguments about why it is irrelevant, and it is in some sense, like it's one of them where I'm not going to lose any sleep about being knocked out of the competition. But I do think whilst you are in it, use it to your advantage. Get some money in the bank, which is always a bonus, especially at our level, especially after COVID. Why would you turn it down? What harm is it doing to go out there and try and win a game? But I'm going to talk more about the actual on-field situation at the moment, and on the back of a couple of defeats and the fact that there's criticisms of Ollie Clark, George Lapsley, Danny Johnson, certain players, Gordon, Hewitt, players not maybe hitting their best. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of players on that. We've got a strong bench, and we've got players that aren't quite getting onto the bench. As in Harry Charsley has only just got back into the mix, so this is an opportunity. This is a prime opportunity for them to go out on that game, on that pitch, get some game time, which is obviously important still at the start of the season, but to put themselves in the mind of Nigel Clough for Saturday. So I think it's perfect timing for when it's come around because of how we've played over the last couple of weeks. I don't mean that in a massive negative way. I just mean it's an opportunity to give some players, like I say, that opportunity to go out there and play. So I'm fully looking forward to it now. I think it's perfect timing for the game to come around.
Yeah, it is, and it's prime opportunity, as you say, to see some of those players get some minutes, and also put themselves in the mindset of Nigel Clough ahead of Saturday's game at home, ironically, to Harrogate. I think we're probably likely to see George Shelvey, although Nathan Bishop's done very little, in fact nothing at all wrong since he came in, but he'll probably get rested and Shelvey will get minutes. I would imagine we'd see James Clark play at right back. Not a lot you can do with the centre halves unless we sign somebody on Monday. We might see Ryan Burke in at left back to give McLaughlin a bit of rest. I think we'll definitely see Harry Charsley. Really good opportunity for him to get some minutes and put himself in Clough's thoughts. Keaton Ward, Jason Law as well, who've been on the fringes, not really had a look in. Tyree Sinclair, again, will presumably get a start. Jordan Bowery up top, I'd be very surprised if he didn't get a start. And then it will just be a case of who he puts alongside him. Will it be Nathan Kane, maybe? Obviously, we know that Josh Scott's gone out on loan to Baseford, so he won't be involved. Or will it be Johnson to try and get him a goal, get his confidence going? It's a big, big opportunity, not just for for players to get in the mindset of Nigel Clough, Clive, but also for them for the team to bounce back and to sort of say, look, we're not going to make errors each week. We can play our good football. We can be strong, and we can perform. And also on the back of that as well, it's also a good opportunity for those players that have made a few mistakes in the last couple of games to say to stand up and be counted.
Yeah, I don't actually agree with what you both said about the value of the tournament and financially. I mean, I think the risks of players getting injured, players in a tournament which effectively isn't that important, outweighs the 10 grand a game. And quite honestly, if we damage our league form as a result of playing a midweek game or three in the Papa Smurf Trophy, the ascendancy of our gates will stop. And we've been putting gate numbers up, and quite rightly so. We've been playing good football, and people have been denied football for a while. And we've got a new management team since the last time people could come in the ground. And 1,000 extra fans at Field Mill's worth more than £10,000. So I think financially, I don't think it makes any difference. I think the real value, and you've touched on it, is it'll give the management team and the fans the chance to see some of the players that are hovering around the edges, and to see if there's anybody there that we can have the confidence in to take some of these spots where we have effectively weaknesses.
But there's my point. I mean, I do agree with you about the value versus gate receipts and potential gate receipts. But my point is on that. We have got, it's not about 11 players that we put out on a Saturday afternoon in League Two. It's about a squad. All right, we've got this under-23s trophy, which I think is a fantastic thing to be in, and will also give players the opportunity to go out and play and get extra game time and put themselves in the mindset, almost like a second Papa John's trophy. But we have got a squad. We have got a squad big enough and filled with quality enough to go out and at least progress through the group stages. I tell you now, if we do not progress through the group stages, I will be very, very disappointed indeed, because it will show me that actually we don't have a squad which has got a good enough depth, and that we are relying on 11 players. This is not just an opportunity for players to get minutes. It's an opportunity to show we are strong as a squad, and confidence breeds confidence. A win on Tuesday night is confidence going into Saturday.
There's the other point. I don't think either manager, Mansfield or Harrogate, is going to want to show their hand for the league effort next week. So I think there's going to be a certain amount of obfuscation, if that's the right word. And I think you can ring your bell next time I say that one, by the way. And I promise I won't. I'm not even sure it was appropriate. But the point I'm making is that these games will come along and they have value, but it's limited value. I'm looking forward to going to watch the match and watch the players that we haven't seen so far having a real dig. And I'd like to see something come out at the other end. But I don't think it will reflect in any way, shape or form the team that Clough puts out next Saturday.
Oh, no, not at all. But
did you probably, if you've seen the full Clough clip, you probably realise how unhappy he was with the Welsh FA, because they had taken it on themselves to tell the world that Ryan Sturck was suffering from COVID. And Clough was feeling that's not very good. It's letting our opposition know that I've got a player I can't use. So to a certain extent, when you go to play in the Papa Luigi Cup on Tuesday, you're going to give, if you're not careful, you're going to give too much away to the opposition for the Saturday.
I mean, there is a slight risk of that, but I think, Nath, let's be honest, we should be winning it, right?
Yeah, I'm in your corner with this one, Craig.
Money, a trip to Wembley, a trophy to put in the empty trophy cabinet. We should be smashing this competition. There's no real threats for me. We can beat anyone in League One. Let's do it.
Pull the full strength 11 out. Why
yeah, do it. Why not? Let's play the full strength 11s in the cup and then play the reserves in the league.
Get Steck on the field.
He might be playing if we carry on with
maybe
this
not quite that far.
If we carry on for this search as a centre back as we're doing, he'll be playing.
That's a point. He's a tall lad. Get him in the middle there.
Hey, and you know, if he's playing outfield, you know what else we can do? Put another body up front when we get a long throw.
Yes, and not use it.
You'd actually think that Steck would be good at long throws, wouldn't you?
Well, you never know. Get him on taking him. There you go.
You'd think he'd be good at catching as well, but you know.
Yeah, there you go. Good counter argument there, Nath. Roy says, "I hope we beat Wednesday in the Papa John's. I live half a mile from the ground, and I'll just get abused. So please beat him, of course." Sheffield Wednesday. Who else in our group? Is it Newcastle under 23s? I think is in our group, and Harrogate. So 2 home games after this one in late October, early November, I think. So more on that and to come over the course of the season. Time now, though, to turn our attentions to the man of the match vote for yesterday and wrap this up. And whilst you have a little think about who you want to put in for your man of the match vote as well, we'll of course go through the scores in from Sky Bet League 2 yesterday. Get involved in the comments right now and let us know who you think should be in your man of the match for yesterday. We know it's going to be a difficult choice. It will obviously be tough because, you know, we lost a game and there's a few players that didn't have great games, but somebody has to get a coveted tweet from Mr. Nathan Edge. So without further ado, let's delve into yesterday's full-time scores and roundup of League 2 whilst you start thinking who could get a coveted tweet from Mr. Edge. It's time for the League 2 roundup. So Mansfield Town were, of course, beaten by 1-0 at Swindon, a result which drops them into 7th place with 5 games played, 2 wins, 1 draw and 2 defeats. Elsewhere in League 2 yesterday, it finished Barrow 1, Bristol Rovers 1, Crawley 0, Northampton 0, Port Vale off the mark, winning 2-0 away at Forest Green Rovers. Harrogate, who we play on Tuesday and on Saturday, drew 1-1 with Exeter. Hartlepool were 2-1 winners over Carlisle. Leyton Orient beat Bradford by 2-0. Salford 3-0 winners over Newport. It finished Scunthorpe 1, Tranmere 0, Sutton 1, Oldham 2, and Walsall 1, Stevenage 0. In terms of the Sky Bet League 2 table then, nobody has got 5 out of 5. Forest Green, 4 wins and a defeat sees them at the top of the table on 12 points. Harrogate in second, 3 wins and a draw from their 4 games so far. Bradford in 3rd. Swindon, Hartlepool, Leyton Orient and ourselves make up the playoffs, with Northampton just behind. At the other end of the table, Sutton prop up the division with 2 draws and 2 defeats, whilst Oldham sit in 23rd with 1 win and 4 defeats in Sky Bet League 2 this season. But who was your man of the match yesterday? Let us know in the comments who you think should get the tweet from Nathan Edge as the Stags lose by 1-0 away at Swindon. Of course, we know that finding a contender for man of the match, Nath, is going to be hard indeed. But, I'm sure there'll be a few players on the radar. How many is on your radar for yesterday's game? What are you saying?
Just the 2 for me. The second one's maybe more of a special mention, I suppose. So I'll start with him. They're now teammate of Cristiano Ronaldo, actually, technically. But Nathan Bishop, he didn't have a great deal to do yesterday. But like you said earlier, he's not really done anything wrong so far. And it's kind of hard done by to not really have a clean sheet to put next to his name. But that save he did make before, it's been 5 minutes before they did end up scoring. That for me was a save that he deserved to be on at least on the winning team, or at least a drawing team, So I felt for him. It was a terrific save, and he's done a couple of those so far this season. I think he's a competent, really good goalkeeper. But there's only one real man of the match for me, and that's Stephen Quinn. I just think, again, for like he does most games, he just looks sort of head and shoulders above most players on the pitch. And we made the comparison, and when talking through the match, everyone was looking at Wes Hoolahan last year at Cambridge being that experienced player in ex-Premier League player in League 2 tearing the league apart. Well, I think Quinn. I don't think Quinn's far behind him, or even I think he's on par with him at least. So I thought he had a good game. So he's my vote for the man.
Clive, how many are you nominating?
Well, I've got a clear winner, but I've got 3 mentions as well. Also, Nathan Bishop. I think he did nothing wrong. He's not done much wrong at all this season, and he's proved he can save shots. And I'd be disappointed if I was him not to have got at least 1 clean sheet so far. But it'll come. But not enough to give him man of the match. I thought George Maris worked hard, made a couple of mistakes, but he was always in there. Second half, his intercepts weren't as good as they were in the first, but I thought he played well. And Kel Gordon did some good stuff. But my man of the match is Quinn.
Yeah, and
if only because I've got it written on my pad already.
I think that's probably the reason why you wrote it on your notepad, is it not? To remind you later on. There you go, psychic. I've got a couple. I've got 2 honourable mentions and 1 winner. Honourable mention is going to go to Stephen McLaughlin. I thought he did relatively well down that left-hand side, linked up with Quinn again. Didn't really do anything wrong. A lot of the problems came from the right-hand side. And as game by game, I feel almost saying it, but he's improving at left back and certainly proving my initial doubts wrong that we'd miss Samal. So an honourable mention to him. Second honourable mention is going to go to the man you voted for in Stephen Quinn. I thought he played well. Took the captain's armband when Ollie Clark went off, and he's the sort of captain you want, an experienced pro who can be a little bit more vocal and try and drive things. But my man of the match vote is going to go to Nathan Bishop, who has also been given honourable mentions. I think, like it's been said, he's been very, very unlucky not to have a clean sheet so far. He's made a couple of good saves. He certainly made a tremendous save, I think, in the second half to keep things at bay and to keep us in the game. But for me, I think he's showing that he's a good, competent goalkeeper, got a very good schooling, and is very, very vocal indeed. And I think if he had a little bit more nous in front of him, a little bit more experience, those clean sheets would certainly follow, and he'll be worth his weight in gold come the end of the season. season. So my vote is going to go for him. A little look in the comments. Sue has gone for Bishop. Richard has gone for Quinn. Which means the overall votes it is in favour of Stephen Quinn. So he gets the coveted tweet from you, Mr. Edge. And Nathan Bishop is given an honourable mention for today's game. So a massive well done to him.
Craig, can I just interrupt you? I just want to make one comment. Sue, I was only joking about Shirebrook.
I meant to say you're in trouble, Clive.
Yeah.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. I was going to bring that up.
I've got family in Shirebrook, and I used to play for Shirebrook, so I've got an affection for the place.
There you go. So yes, we will reprimand Clive. We'll give him a warning.
Yeah,
somebody asked, I missed a comment earlier on, by the way. Somebody asked, I think it was Roy. Nothing to do with the game yesterday, but do you know why the fourth official always rolls the ball back in play when it's gone out of the ground instead of kicking it in? I don't, but I also think that you know what they say: if you can't play, be a ref.
I think it actually is the rule. I think they have to roll it in. I don't think the refs are supposed to kick it either. So I think there is some sort of rule behind it. I think it probably is to save them the embarrassment of tripping over when they do it.
Yeah, that is probably true. Final port of call then for today's show. It is the Sunday sermon, and we always need to take lessons from games. I know what mine is. I think you can probably guess what mine will be. I'll save it for the outro. Clive, I'll come to you first. What's your lesson going to be following yesterday's 1-0 defeat away at Swindon?
Let's score some flipping goals.
I think it's a fair one. It's definitely a fair one. Definitely a fair one. Nathan, what are you going to say? What are you going to say for yours? Make it long, because I'm writing these down.
I was going to go with similar to Clive, but to mix it up a little bit, I'm going to say let's not be afraid to maybe have a go with a 4-3-3. Maybe for the full match, let's stick with it. Let's give it more of a chance. So I'll say the lesson is if the diamond's not working, change to something else.
There you go. Wise words from Mr. Nathan Edge and from Mr. Clive Parkin. My thanks to the two of them. They will be back with us, and they will be back with us on Wednesday night as we bring that one on Wednesday evening. This week's podcast, 24 hours-ish after that trip to Harrogate, where the Stags should be winning the game and getting 10 grand in the pot and progressing one step closer to the Wembley dream. More on that, I'm sure, throughout the season. For now, though, that is it. Thanks very much for joining us on today's Sunday sermon. The Stags lose by 1-0 at Swindon. The lessons to take away. Don't be afraid of the 4-3-3. If the diamond's not working, give it a try. Also, up front, let's score some flipping goals. They are important. I'm sure you can know by now what my lesson's going to be. If you've got a player in your squad who's got a long throw and you've got 3 players over 6 foot, let's use the long throw more. The other lesson? A simple one. There's a transfer window open. There's cash in the bank. There's deals to be made. Let's go and do it. And as a collective, let's remember perspective. 5 games in, 2 wins, 1 draw and 2 defeats. It's still very, very early days. There's a lot more to come from Mansfield Town, and we look forward to following the journey. Next up is a trip to Harrogate Town in the Papa John's Trophy, the first of 3 group games, before on Saturday back to the One Call to play Harrogate again, this time in Sky Bet League 2. Whatever the game, whatever the occasion, whatever the competition, whatever the situation, let's back the boys to get some points on board. This is the Sunday Sermon, the show for the fans by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. We'll see you again on Wednesday at 7 p.m-ish. For more Mansfield Matters content, visit mtfcmatters.co.uk. I've been Craig Priest, alongside me, Clive Parkin and Nathan Edge. Until next time, goodbye. The views expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individual. For more, visit mtfcmatters.co.uk.